All right, so back in the saddle here, treading our way carefully through the patches of snow here. Again, it's not easy riding through these because the snow is either one of two things. It's either soft, so you sink in, or it's ice. Again, hopefully by next weekend, any traces of snow on the grade are going to be gone. And the problem is that when I get into the, try to go on the side, the ballast is really thick and I can't pedal either there. Just can't win here. Okay, now we're in the clear. So again, you can see, continuing with this very swampy geography alongside the grade here, you can see all of the sort of wet areas. We're going to come up to a big sort of beaver dam shortly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip you ahead a little bit here, and then we'll pick it up there. And so again, here you can see the flooding that's happening because of the beaver. Again, I don't remember the water this high. You can see there's a little dam there. There's a series of dams that the beavers constructed. And so here, this area, the last time I was here, was the spot that was kind of really flooded. And I distinctly remember it because there was the Beaver Lodge, and it looks like somebody's dug it up and ripped it up and tossed all the pieces here. I remember the lodge was right on that tree and right beside sort of the grade. You can see here the dam's been broken and the water is kind of rushing through. Okay, we're gonna hold up here for a second. You can see no on this section here, no telegraph poles, but you can see the bases of them, which is always kind of interesting. I didn't know this story, so I got to give a little shout out to Francis on this one. So apparently, what happened is when Canadian National basically you can see they're all cut down, so all these telegraph poles were cut down. You could actually buy the poles, and so people did, and I think it's one of the explanations why there's sections where you see telegraph poles and then other areas like there's none to be seen. So it's just kind of an interesting tidbit. Okay, so we'll stop here for a second and then we'll resume our journey to the west. Okay, so one of the interesting things that happens here, and I don't know if you can kind of make it out, it's going to get a little clearer here in a second. The grade is curving here, and what ends up happening is we actually come alongside another railway line, and this is the second time that we come alongside this line, and this is the Canadian Pacific main line. So it's their main line across Canada. The technical description for this portion of the line is the Nipigon Subdivision, so the Canadian Pacific Railway Nipigon Subdivision, which runs from Schreiber to Thunder Bay, 132.9 miles. So this is one of the areas where these two rail lines parallel each other. So the Canadian Pacific was built through this area 1884, 1885. And obviously this line was built 25 years later. So that line predates this one by quite a bit. And as opposed to this line, that line is still active. Usually it's a Sunday morning, so Sunday mornings are pretty quiet on the Canadian Pacific. You don't see as many trains. We were here yesterday, and I'm going to talk more about that very shortly. We did see a Canadian Pacific train. First time ever in doing all these explorations. And again, there's a few sections where these two rail lines kind of are close to each other. First time I've ever seen a Canadian Pacific train, you know, right beside this, this grade. And so you can see here the curve continues. The geography changes now. And you'll notice we sort of get more into sort of that upland sort of vegetation, more mixed. You can kind of see more poplar trees, the occasional birch, lots of poplar in here. And probably one of the reasons why there's a lot of poplar in here is because there was logging that was happening in this area, and I'm going to talk about that very shortly. Here we have a pretty significant creek crossing. It looks like it's been repaired. And so you can see there's been some repair work that's been done on here. There's no milepost marker on here, which is unfortunate, because around here somewhere is the milepost 138 marker. Again, nowhere to be found. I looked and I looked. I looked today. I looked yesterday when I was here. Can't see it. However, we do have an indication of mileage coming up very shortly. So here we're coming up to a what used to be a level crossing. You can see the level crossing still there on the Canadian Pacific. I believe, if I'm reading that correctly, that is milepost 73.9 on the Canadian Pacific. This would have been, if this is milepost 138 on the original lines, this would have been milepost 88.3 on the original Nipigon Subdivision or the Dorion Subdivision. So this is a place called Everard. So Everard was not one of the original stops on the railway line. It was put in later. So it first appears, let me get across the road here. I think you can see that they've done some logging in here. I think they were doing that over the winter. I didn't really see any vehicles here, but they did a good job on the road. You can see all of the chips. They chip up all the trees to make it easy to transport. So anyway, so again, this is Everard. You can see there's a building over there, looks like a home or something like that, and there's a few, looks the remains of some structures up there. So Everard first appears on the railway timetables in 1927, and I'll flash that up on the screen so you can see that. And it appears as a spur known as Black Sturgeon, and the name comes from the river that's just right there, so you can see the bridge just ahead, which is known as the Black Sturgeon River. And so it shows up as a spur, and then in 1930 it was made a full station, and so basically it becomes part of the official timetable of the railway line. Okay, so our next little point of interest, I actually found this yesterday. I didn't even know this was here. I was kind of finishing up my hike over here, and I noticed the pole sticking on the ground. So what we have is we have the flanger sign, and the flanger sign is for the level crossing that used to be over there. I looked for the one on the other side, but I couldn't find it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to resume here in 1 second, and then we're going to just pull ourselves right into the bridge. All right, so we're just going to keep plugging along here. The bridge is right there. And again, this is part of today's exploration, but we actually did the exploration and the video on the bridge yesterday as part of our hike. We did a hike to the west towards Coughlin, which is the next station on the line, and so we did all of that already. So another little thing, I found this last fall when I was here, so I never saw this on the original hike. So you can see that there's another flanger sign, and so this would have been the flanger sign for the bridge. And so here would have been a, obviously you can see there's a double crossing here, and we'll talk a little bit more in the video. You can see that there's a bridge belonging to the Canadian Pacific, and there's a bridge belonging to the originally Canadian Northern and then Canadian National, and again crossing over the Black Sturgeon River. And so again, Everard here, the community is kind of called Everard. The station here on the Canadian Northern, sorry, the Canadian National was called Everard. For the Canadian Pacific, this is kind of the start of their station at Sprucewood. And so they have a different sort of description for this area. Okay, so what we're going to do is, as I mentioned, we're going to do our exploration of the bridge, which is going to be the conclusion of our hike for today.